Hey everyone, this is Bridgette Raes and I'm back with another stylish tip for you. And this week I want to talk about why people aren't very public about sharing that they work with a stylist. I received this email from a client of mine who asked me this question, and this is how she worded it. She said, "Why is it that I don't flinch at accepting a compliment about my hair and gladly share the name of the salon? But if someone compliments my outfit, I'm hesitant to admit that I'm just as willing to pay for skilled wardrobe consulting as I am for skilled hair cutting and coloring. Is it the suburban circles I move in, or is it the fact that stylists aren't seen as important if you aren't landing on a red carpet somewhere? Honest truth, I spent blank, I'm not going to disclose it, on 2 shirts that I could have spent on an hour with you and have come out much better in the end." This is such a great question. So to reiterate what my client said, basically she's ashamed to I don't want to say ashamed, but she's uncomfortable telling people when they compliment her outfits that she got some help with her wardrobe. And you know, this industry has evolved. Being a personal stylist, I started in 2002, and this industry had been around years and years and years before I came onto the scene. So it's not like I started this industry or anything. I mean, image consultants have been around for decades, and certainly stylists have as well. To be clear, I'm not an editorial stylist, nor am I a celebrity stylist. So I have always worked with women like my client, who's just an average woman living in a suburban town in the United States. You know, when I first started my profession, I mean, it definitely wasn't what it is today. I think it's definitely become more acceptable over the years. I remember when I would go to stores 12 years ago and say to the store manager, "Can I put these aside? I'm pulling them for a client tomorrow." And they'd be like, "Well, what do you do?" And now when I go to stores and I say the same thing, the manager will go, "Oh, you're a stylist. Great, no problem. Sure, not a problem at all." So it's definitely become much more acceptable for the average woman to hire someone and get help. And I think it's only going to continue to evolve. I remember when I started my business, I remember saying, you know, decades ago, only the rich and famous had personal trainers. Now it's quite common to see most people with a trainer, or a lot of people with a trainer, I should say. It's not just something that celebrities have. So yes, there's been an evolution, but there's still this odd sort of stigma around it. And I think that my client touched on a good point, which is, you know, she's happy to tell people that where she gets her haircut, when someone says, "That's a great haircut." The reason why I think she's so easy and has no problem telling people is because we are raised in this society to not cut our hair. I mean, you know, if someone's cutting their own hair, I mean, we start to seriously wonder what's wrong with this person. Like, do we need to, like, have a fundraiser for them? Like, why are they cutting their own hair? I mean, bless their heart. Like, we've never cut our own hair. I cut my own hair once when I was in high school, and I cut my bangs, and I never touched my hair again. We don't typically, unless we're very skilled at coloring our hair, even color our hair, or you know, are on a budget for a period of time, we color our own hair. But we leave this to the professionals because this is what we do. We don't cut our own hair. But when it comes to getting dressed, I think that there is a much different relationship to that. And I think that we women grow up thinking or believing that this is something that we should just know, and there's really no reason for it. I mean, it's just something that society says we are supposed to know how to get dressed. And I laugh at that because I think about, in the 12 years that I've been doing this, that not knowing how to get dressed is actually more the norm than the exception. And I think that a lot of women, I think if we were more public about the fact that many of us need help, we'd realize that we're not alone, that many women are not alone in their struggles. But there's still this stigma around it because we all sort of have ingrained in us that we're supposed to know how to do it. So we're afraid of the reaction. You know, my client in particular, I mean, what is the reaction going to be? What are people going to think of her? You know, are they going to question, well, what's wrong with you? Number two, I think that there's a lot of catty women in this world, and I think that many women get way too consumed by how other people or other women choose to live. Communities can be very small, and women love to gossip. And I don't know why. I don't know why a lot of women get particularly interested in how someone chooses to spend their time and money. I just don't lose a lot of sleep worrying about what someone else's choices are, but some people do, and when you live in a small community, no one wants to be the fodder for the gossip. So it's kind of sad, actually, that we are afraid of what other people will think, possibly. So that's one of the reasons why. But I think another reason why women sort of are afraid to say anything is that I think that women have this whole thing like, we're strong, we get the job done, we, at the end of the day, we take on the world. And that's fine as long as we're not doing it for ourselves. And that's an interesting thing. Like, as long as at the end of the day, you're like a wounded warrior who's like a bloody stump at the end of the day, then you have been successful. But if you do it with a sense of ease and efficiency, and that you're, still, looking great at the end of the day, oh, well, now, what's wrong with you? You're supposed to, like, trudge through it, and, God forbid you take care of yourself, or you put all that energy towards self-care. Society towards women, we have this very odd sort of idea that a woman who works really hard should look like she's ready to collapse before she goes to bed every night. So I think when a woman does things to care for herself, image and appearance being one of them, there's judgment. There's judgment about that. Like, how dare you? How dare you take care of yourself? How dare you not suffer with the rest of us women? Third, I think that there's also a very shallow association with any woman who puts any effort towards fashion. I think that fashion is a guilty pleasure because we're supposed to love it as women, but if we love it too much, then we're supposed to feel shame about that. So there's this like, I love it, but I'm not supposed to love it. So it's this odd kind of, I think, internal struggle that women have. But I think that what should be stated, and again, this is from personal experience with years and years of working with women, women don't come for style help because they're obsessed with fashion. Women come for style help usually because they're trying to achieve something in their life. It's not typically about the clothes. So what I mean by that is, if a woman's coming to me, there's usually something bigger at stake. It can be personal, it could be professional, it could be going for a job interview, it could be transitioning from being married to newly single, it could be embracing a new age and wanting to learn how to do it well. What I always do when I work with clients is I listen out for those reasons. If it's just about, well, it'd be fun to have a makeover. I mean, yeah, I do get calls like that, and certainly women have called me. But there's usually something deeper underneath it. So before we judge a woman for doing something like this, for hiring someone to get help, I think we have to realize that it's not usually about the clothes. And if it is, so what? But usually there's something deeper there. There's something that this woman actually wants to move ahead in her life. And she knows, and she's smart enough to know that how she presents herself to the world is going to play a big part in whether or not she achieves it. So I think that, I'm fine either way. I want to be clear too. I really don't care if a client is very public about me or isn't very public about me. I've had some clients, they hire me, they can't wait to tell all their friends. They introduce me if I'm at someplace and they run into some, oh my gosh, you have to meet Bridgette and la 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 la. And then I've had other clients who've been very clear about discretion, and they're like, look, let's say I was invited recently to an event of my clients, and she told me, my friends, my family are going to be there. I've never told anyone about this. Can we keep it on the down low? Of course. I mean, first of all, I have a tremendous confidentiality agreement set in place with every single client that I do not disclose any information about any clients unless they give their permission. And even if they give permission, I still don't disclose personal details. But if a client decides that this is something that she wants to remain quiet, I have no problem with that. I completely respect it. I don't think it's anyone's business. I think that if you are someone who has sought out the help or has been looking to seek professional help for getting dressed, that's your choice. And, most women who call for help are usually wildly successful women. They're usually, or on their way to being very, very successful. They're usually highly intelligent, highly motivated, very ambitious women who are very smart and know that if they are spending and investing in time with someone like myself, that they can afford to do it, and that this is a smart decision on their part. This isn't some flip decision that women make. These are women who have thought this through very thoroughly. So I think it's interesting that the types of women who usually come for style help are not probably the ones that you think are the ones seeking out help. And that you're probably more like the ones seeking out help than the ones who aren't. Yeah, do I wish there was less stigma around the idea of hiring a stylist? Sure, absolutely. It'd probably be fantastic for my business, but I don't care either way. At the end of the day, it's someone's personal choice, and it really doesn't matter whether or not they choose to disclose it. But as far as whether or not you want to, or you're worried about what other people think, you know what? It's your call, and you know what? You should be proud of it. And I think that the more people were open, I think that the more women would realize it's completely okay, and that you've been sort of sold a bill of goods that you're supposed to know how to do this. And if you don't know how to do it, it's perfectly normal. You're perfectly normal. So I thought that was a really great question, especially as this industry evolves. I think as nowadays there are so many stylists out there, there are so many opportunities at so many different price points to get help. It's not a profession that only rich people can afford any longer. And I'll tell you one last thing. I mean, just like my client said in her message, in her email to me, what she spent on 2 tops that wound up not being that great for her, would have paid for an hour with me, and she would have avoided the mistake. So again, if you think this is a frivolous and shallow thing to do, or it's a waste of money, in the end, you're probably going to save more money, and you're going to become more educated and really understand what isn't right for you. But it's your call. So, if you're someone who wants to keep it private, keep it private. If you're someone who wants to share it. But there should be no shame in seeking out help that you feel you need. So that is my answer for my client, who I'm thrilled to hear from because I love her so much. I hope that helps you. So that's my tip for this week. Tune in next week for another one. And in the meantime, if you have a question you'd like to ask me, you can find me at BridgetteRaes.com, on Facebook, facebook.com/Bridgette Raes Style Expert, and on Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, and all other social media channels. I'm always at Bridgette Raes. Have a great weekend. I'll talk to you next week.